Now that Dad's gone, pack up and find somewhere else to live. This house was never really yours. The words hit me like a slap, delivered with a smug grin that made my stomach twist. I walked out carrying just a small suitcase, tears running down my cheeks, while my stepdaughter Emily watched from the window, probably laughing. The funeral had been only yesterday. After 25 years of marriage, they couldn't even wait a full day before showing their true colors. I should have known when Emily whispered to her husband at the service, pointing at me and mouthing, "Gold digger." "You heard my wife." Jason, Emily's husband, puffed his chest like a wannabe tough guy. "Time to crawl back to whatever trailer park you came from. Charming, right? I'd helped raise his kids and paid for their private school out of my own pocket for 3 years. But apparently gratitude isn't genetic. You've got 30 minutes to pack," Emily added, scrolling her phone like I was some boring appointment. "Then Jason's calling the cops." The neighbors loved every second. Mrs. Clayton kept peeking through her curtains, so I gave her a little wave. Might as well give her a show. "This is my father's house," Emily barked. "You were just the hired help who got lucky." 25 years of marriage reduced to hired help. I bit my tongue hard enough to taste blood, smiling anyway. If only she knew what I knew. I packed in silence while they circled like vultures. Emily followed me, making sure I didn't steal anything. "Don't even think about taking Mom's jewelry," she snapped as I passed her mother's old box. I smiled sweetly. "Wouldn't dream of it, dear." The irony was delicious. If only she knew what Robert had left me. As I stepped outside, Jason called, "Don't bother coming back. We're changing the locks tonight." Emily stood in the doorway, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won. That night, I cried myself to sleep in a cheap motel. But by morning I had a plan. The bank opened at 9 and I was first in line, marriage certificate in hand. Mr. Cooper, who'd managed our accounts for 15 years, looked pale as he opened the estate files. "Mrs. Anderson," he said carefully, "you're the primary beneficiary on several major accounts, and there's a private investment portfolio in your name. Your husband built it over the years." I stared at the numbers, heart pounding. Robert had been saving for me for decades. Money Emily knew nothing about. "There's more," Mr. Cooper said quietly. "Your husband added you as a signatory on the children's trust accounts last year. There's been unusual activity." He slid records across his desk. Those accounts were meant for the kids at 25, but hundreds of thousands had been pulled out in the past 18 months. "Who authorized this?" I asked. "Your stepdaughter. The withdrawals are labeled as educational and medical costs, but," he hesitated, "the amounts don't match anything reasonable. Emily had been stealing from her own kids' trust funds. The woman who called me a gold digger was a thief." "Freeze these accounts immediately," I said. "And prepare the paperwork for the will reading." Mr. Cooper nodded. "I also recommend a formal audit." "Arrange it," I told him. I drove straight to Karen Brooks, Robert's attorney for 30 years. Her reaction was instant. "This is embezzlement, Margaret. Emily can't justify those withdrawals without receipts." She handed me a sealed envelope. "Robert asked me to give you this after the will reading, but given what you've learned, read it now." Robert's handwriting was shaky, but his words were strong. "My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, my fears about Emily were right. I've loved her all her life, but I can't ignore her entitlement. Everything I built for you. Use it wisely. Don't feel guilty, you earned it with decades of love and loyalty." So the gold digger had just inherited everything. Perfect. "When's the will reading?" I asked. "Friday at 2. Everyone will be there," Karen said. "Good," I smiled. 3 days to prepare my acceptance speech. That afternoon I called Lincoln Academy, the private school where Emily's boys were enrolled. I'd been quietly paying part of their tuition for years. "Mrs. Anderson, we were sorry to hear about the missed payment," the headmaster, Mr. Thompson, said. "Missed payment? Interesting. I'm changing the payment structure," I replied. "I won't be covering any costs anymore." By 3 Emily called, panicked. "What did you do?" "The school called. I stopped paying for something that wasn't my responsibility," I said. Silence. I could practically hear her brain spinning. "You've been paying?" "For 3 years," she finally asked. "Yes." "Margaret, we need to talk." "Do we?" "Yesterday you made it clear I wasn't family. We were emotional. Dad just died." And you kicked me out. I'm not feeling very generous today. She was quiet for a long moment. Please, can we meet? Just to talk. I pretended to think. Emily was finally panicking. The coffee shop on Maple Street. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Thank you, she whispered. I hung up. Let her sweat overnight, wondering how much trouble she was really in. That evening I sat in my motel room, reviewing bank statements and Robert's personal papers, planning every move. Robert had kept meticulous notes, dates, incidents, conversations, documenting Emily's behavior. It painted a clear picture. A daughter who never appreciated what she had, and a father who never stopped hoping she'd change. The will reading was going to be unforgettable. Emily was already at the coffee shop when I arrived, hunched over a cold cup, looking awful. Unwashed hair, wrinkled clothes, dark circles. Guilt and panic are terrible beauty products. Thank you for coming, she said without looking up. I sat across from her, silent. Sometimes silence is the best weapon. I didn't know you were paying the boys' tuition, she finally said, meeting my eyes. I thought the trust fund covered it. You mean the trust fund money you've been stealing, I replied. Her face went pale. How did you? Your father made me a signatory. I see every transaction. I smiled. Turns out the hired help has access to a lot. She started crying, not yesterday's angry tears but desperate ones. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she whispered. How far was it supposed to go? Jason's business was failing. We were behind on the mortgage, school costs, and Dad was too sick to notice. So you stole from your kids' inheritance? I was going to pay it back once Jason's business recovered or after the inheritance. I pulled up the bank statements Mr. Cooper had given me. Emily, you drained nearly $300,000 in 18 months. $5,000 for educational expenses, paid your mortgage. $10,000 for medical emergencies, Hawaii vacation. $20,000 for tutoring, Jason's credit cards. Each example hit her like a punch. Her skin turned gray. I was protecting the family, she tried. Your father's medical bills were covered by insurance. I have those records too. Her face crumpled. Oh God. What have I done? You've stolen from your kids and destroyed your relationship with the one person who could have helped you. What do you mean? Did you ever wonder why your father married me? Because you were young and pretty. I was 25, working as a nurse, putting myself through grad school. He didn't need my money, he needed someone to love his children as much as he did. You and David were my children even when you pushed me away. Fresh tears poured. For 25 years I quietly paid for school supplies, birthday parties, car repairs, medical bills. Because that's what mothers do. I let the silence hang. The will readings tomorrow. After that, everyone will know about the trust fund. Are you going to have me arrested? That depends on what you do in the next 24 hours. What do you want? I want you to be the daughter your father believed you could be. I don't know how anymore. Figure it out. You have until 2 p.m. tomorrow. As I stood to leave, she called softly, Margaret? Yes. I'm sorry, for yesterday, for everything. I looked at her closely. For the first time in years I saw not an entitled woman, but the scared 16-year-old who lost her mom and never learned how to let anyone love her. I know you are, I said. Tao, prove it. The next day we gathered in Karen Brooks's conference room. The entire Anderson family sat like they were waiting for a firing squad. Emily looked ready to faint, seated between David and Jason. Linda and Tom sat near the end of the table while I sat closest to Karen. Before we begin, Karen announced, there's an active investigation into irregularities with the children's trust accounts. Mrs. Anderson discovered unauthorized withdrawals and requested an audit. Jason turned red. That's ridiculous. Emily's the trustee. Being trustee doesn't mean personal use, Karen replied calmly. Emily had gone ghost white. Karen began reading Robert's will. I inherited the house, the beach property, and 60% of Anderson construction. David received 20% and a generous cash bequest. Emily got 15% and whatever was left of her trust fund. Then Karen read Robert's personal letter. To my beloved wife, Margaret, you've been the light of my life for 25 years. You loved my children when they couldn't love you back, stood by my business through hard times and cared for me with grace. Everything I leave you, you've earned 10 times over. David and Linda nodded. Jason scowled. To my daughter Emily, I love you deeply, but I can't ignore your entitlement or your treatment of my wife. Margaret has been more of a mother to you than you ever allowed her to be. I pray one day you'll see her worth and your own behavior, clearly. Emily's tears were flowing freely now. Good. Maybe she was finally getting it. After the reading, the family began to leave, but Jason wasn't done. This is insane, he shouted. She gets everything and the real kids get scraps. Jason, don't, David warned. Don't what? She manipulated a sick old man. I'd had enough. Jason, would you like to explain to everyone how your wife spent nearly $300,000 of her children's trust funds? The room went dead silent. What are you talking about? Linda asked. I pulled out the audit report. The money meant for the boys' college went to mortgage payments, credit cards, personal expenses. About $40,000 remains out of $350,000. David shot to his feet, his chair crashing. Emily, tell me this isn't true. She just cried while Jason sputtered denials. Tom scanned the report, his face darkening. Emily, these boys are my grandnephews. How could you? It wasn't stealing. Jason snapped. Were their parents? No, David's voice was ice. You had no right. That money was untouchable until they were 25. The room felt radioactive, everyone stunned into silence as the truth settled in. Emily finally spoke, her voice trembling. I was going to pay it back, once Jason's business recovered. Or after Dad. David's head snapped up. After Dad what? After he died and I inherited his money, he finished for her, his tone sharp. Were you planning to steal from his estate too? It wasn't like that, Emily protested, but the truth was written all over her face. She'd been counting on Robert's inheritance to cover her thefts, never imagining she'd get so little. There's more, I said quietly, because why stop now? The business has been carrying major debt for 2 years. Debt Emily, as financial manager, should have disclosed. Karen Brooks nodded grimly. The accountant found irregularities. Money moved to personal accounts, fake vendor payments, altered expense reports. Jason lurched to his feet, clearly drunk. You can't prove any of this. Actually, we can. I slid him a copy of the criminal complaint I'd filed that morning. Embezzlement charges are already with the district attorney. Emily let out a broken sob. Margaret, please. You said you'd give me 24 hours. I gave you time to confess. Instead, you lied and let your husband attack me. David stared at her, his voice soft, like he didn't recognize his own sister. Emily, how did it come to this? I don't know, she cried. Everything spiraled and I couldn't stop it. Linda stood, her face tight with disappointment. I think we've heard enough. Margaret, we owe you an apology. No apology needed, I said. You couldn't have known. As the family filed out, Emily grabbed my arm. Please. Isn't there some way to fix this? I studied her desperate face, feeling something close to pity. Maybe. But it means being completely honest, with your family, the authorities, and yourself. I'll do anything. We'll see, I said. And I meant it. Emily still had a few lies left to burn through. 3 weeks later, she knocked on my hotel door at 7 a.m. I'd upgraded to a nicer place across town, taking my time house hunting. No rush when you're suddenly wealthy. Emily stood there with coffee and a stack of papers. I brought everything, she said, settling into a chair. Every withdrawal, every forged document, every lie for the past 2 years. And, she slid another file forward, documentation of Jason's gambling debts. That's where most of the stolen money went. How predictable, I murmured. The prosecutor wants to meet tomorrow. My attorney says if I cooperate fully and make restitution, I might avoid prison. And Jason, she held up her left hand, now ringless. I filed for divorce yesterday. Well, I said, surprised. Are you sure? Yes. His gambling has destroyed everything. I told myself I was protecting my family, but I was enabling him. I studied her face for signs of manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion, and maybe real remorse. The boys don't know yet, she continued, about the charges or the divorce. I wanted to talk to you first. Why me? Because they'll need stability. They'll need family. I want to sign over full custody to you. I almost dropped my coffee. Emily, that's not necessary. Yes, it is. Even if I avoid prison, I'll have a record. They deserve better. You've been more of a grandmother than I've been a mother. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her voice was steady. I don't deserve them, but you do. I reached for her hand. Emily, what you did was terrible, but giving up your children isn't the answer. Then what is? Taking responsibility. Making restitution. Fighting every day to become the woman your father believed you could be. Do you think that's even possible? I think your father spent 25 years hoping for this moment. She went quiet, then whispered, there's something else. The last time Dad was conscious, he asked me to take care of you. He said you were the best thing that ever happened to our family. I promised him I would, and then I threw you out of your own house. I've broken every promise, Margaret, but if you'll let me, I want to keep this one. I squeezed her hand. Then prove it. That afternoon I called David to update him. His disbelief was obvious. She wants to give you custody of the boys? She thinks it's the noble thing to do. But they need their mother to fight for them, not leave them. David was quiet. You're a better person than I am. I'm not sure I could forgive her. I'm not sure I have yet, I admitted. But I'm willing to try. What do you need from me? Help me convince her that running isn't the answer. Those boys need both of us. The next morning, I sat beside Emily in a cold conference room while she listed every financial crime she'd committed. It felt like watching someone perform surgery on themselves without anesthesia. Mrs. Anderson, the prosecutor said when she finished, your cooperation is noted. But the amount involved makes this a felony. I understand, Emily replied. Your attorney proposed a plea deal. 3 years probation, full restitution, and 1,000 hours of community service. She glanced at me. I nodded. I accept. There's one more condition, the prosecutor added. Financial counseling and regular audits for the duration of probation. Of course, Emily said. Outside the courthouse she turned to me. Thank you for being here. This is just the beginning, I reminded her. I know. But for the first time in years I feel like I can actually change. That evening we sat with Tyler and Jake, now 15 and 17. Your mom made serious mistakes with money, I explained gently. She's working hard to fix them, but there will be changes. Are you getting divorced? Tyler asked bluntly. Yes, Emily said, taking a deep breath. Because of money, and a lot of other things that were wrong for a long time. Jake looked at me. Grandma Margaret, are you going to help us? The title made my chest tighten. Always. We're family no matter what. Good, Jake said simply. Because Mom's going to need help figuring out how to be normal. Teenagers. Sometimes they're the wisest people in the room. The house sold faster than expected. The buyers wanted to close in 2 weeks, which meant Emily had to find a new place for her and the boys immediately. With her credit ruined and criminal charges pending, Emily didn't have many options. Such a tragedy. Truly broke my heart. I found an apartment, she told me over coffee, our new weekly ritual. It's small but clean, good school district. Can you afford it? I asked. She hesitated. That's why I need to talk to you. I need a co-signer. I'd been expecting this. Emily, I can't enable bad financial habits. I know, but I can't care for my kids without help, and I can't get help without proving I can care for them. It's a catch-22. Show me your budget. She pulled out a notebook, handwriting neat and organized for the first time in her life. I'll work 2 jobs, bookkeeping by day, tutoring at night. The boys have part-time jobs. We can cover rent and expenses but not security deposits. And restitution? $50,000 over 3 years. It's in the budget. Support from Jason? Mark's bankrupt. No support. Her numbers were honest, tight, and barely sustainable. What if you relapse into old habits? You mean stealing, she said bluntly. If I can't stay responsible, you kick me out and take the boys. That should be part of our deal. They deserve stability more than my pride. 6 months ago she never would have said that. All right, I'll co-sign. But I want monthly financial reports, and the boys need to know they can come to me if things get rough. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. I won't let you down. Don't thank me yet. Prove it for a year first. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms with outdated appliances, but safe and close to the boys' school. Tyler grinned as we toured. Way better than listening to Dad yell about money. Plus, Grandma Margaret can bring dinner when Mom burns stuff, Jake added. I don't burn everything, Emily protested. Mom, you burned soup, Tyler shot back. I laughed. I'll teach you some basic cooking skills. I'd like that, Emily said softly. Moving day felt almost like a real family gathering. David and Linda helped with boxes. Tom directed the boys carrying furniture. Linda smiled while unpacking dishes. Feels good to actually help instead of watching a disaster. Emily's working hard to change, I replied. She deserves support and consequences, Linda said. She's getting both. That evening, Emily and I sat on her new couch, tea in mismatched mugs. The second-hand furniture and sparse decor felt more like a home than the McMansion ever did. I keep waiting for you to change your mind, she admitted. Why would you help me? I spent 25 years taking you for granted, stealing, lying, letting Jason treat you like trash. I set my mug down. Do you know why your father fell in love with me? Because you were kind to his kids? Because I saw potential in people who couldn't see it in themselves. Your father was a broken widower. I saw who he could be with patience and support. And you see that in me? I see a woman who's made terrible mistakes but is willing to change. That's more than most ever manage. Tears spilled again. She turned into a walking advertisement for tissue companies. I love you, she whispered. I should have said it 25 years ago, but I do. I love you too, kiddo. Always. Especially when you were being horrible. That's when love matters most. The boys wandered out of their room mid-conversation. Are you two having a moment? Jake asked. Yes, I said. Deal with it. Cool. Tyler burned popcorn in the microwave. Can you teach him how to use it? Emily blinked. How do you burn popcorn? Same way you burn soup, Tyler grinned. Family talent. Cooking lessons start tomorrow, I announced. Driving home that night, I thought about how much had changed in 6 months. Emily was facing criminal charges and financial ruin, yet for the first time in years she seemed genuinely happy. Her boys respected her. Her family was supporting her, not enabling her. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to figure out what really matters. The peace didn't last. The call came at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. Emily's panicked voice snapped me awake. Margaret, I need help. Jason showed up last night. My stomach tightened. What happened? He was drunk, furious about the divorce papers. He yelled about how this was all your fault. The neighbors called the police. He was arrested for violating the restraining order. Are you and the boys okay? We're fine, but they're rattled. Pack some bags. You're staying with me. Margaret, I can't impose. You're not imposing. You're family. An hour later, they were settled in my townhouse. Tyler looked around my modern kitchen. Everything actually works here. Jake nodded. And no holes in the walls. Emily looked embarrassed. They're still adjusting to normal family life. Normal's overrated, I said. But safe is non-negotiable. Over breakfast, Emily explained Jason's obsession with the boys' trust funds. He thinks the money belongs to him. He knows about the charges? He does, but he says you manipulated me into confessing. I nearly choked on my coffee. The audacity. Jake rolled his eyes. Dad's been acting crazy for months, even before you kicked him out. Gambling all night, sleeping all day. We're glad you divorced him. Tyler nodded. He was making everyone miserable. It was sobering to hear teenagers talk about their father that way, but at least they understood toxic behavior when they saw it. That afternoon, Emily's attorney called with an update on Jason's arrest. He's being held overnight, she told Emily, but will likely be released tomorrow with stricter conditions. No contact with you or the kids, no coming near your home or work, and mandatory Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Emily hung up worried. He's not going to follow those rules. Jason doesn't think they apply to him. He was right. That evening as we finished dinner, he called her 17 times in a row. When she finally answered to tell him to stop, his voice was so loud we could all hear. You think you're smart hiding behind that old witch. But I know where you are. I took the phone from Emily's shaking hands. Jason, this is Margaret. This is your fault. You destroyed my family. Your gambling addiction destroyed your family. Emily and the boys are safe and they'll stay that way. I have rights. Those are my kids. Those kids have a right to live without fear, something they haven't had in years. I hung up and immediately called the police to report the restraining order violation. He'll be arrested again within the hour, the officer assured me. Bail will be set higher this time. Not comforting, but at least he'd be someone else's problem for a while. That night, Emily tucked the boys into the guest beds, quietly explaining safety plans. It broke my heart that children needed conversations like this about their own father. Grandma Margaret? Tyler stood in the kitchen doorway, pajama-clad. What's up, kiddo? Is Dad going to keep trying to hurt us? I knelt to his level. I don't know what he'll do, but your mom and I will do everything we can to keep you safe. Good. Mom's been happier these past months than in years. Dad always made her cry. Out of the mouths of babes. Tyler, do you understand why your parents divorced? Because Dad's sick in his head and won't get help. And Mom finally got smart enough to stop letting him hurt us. 15 years old and wiser than most adults. Your mom loves you very much. She made bad choices, but she's working to change. I know. She actually listens now instead of worrying about Dad's meltdowns. How do you feel about that? Weird, but good. Like we can be normal now. The next morning, we learned Jason had been arrested again for violating the restraining order. Bail was set at $50,000. Money he didn't have. He'll probably stay in jail at least a week, Emily's attorney explained. That gives us time to request an emergency custody order. What does that mean? Emily asked. Temporary full custody, supervised visitation only. Emily looked at me. I nodded. Do it. My kid's safety comes first. As we left the attorney's office, Emily looked stronger than I'd seen her in months. Thank you, she said. For protecting us. For giving us a safe place. For helping me find courage. You're doing the hard work, kiddo. I'm just backup. I couldn't have done this without you. That evening, the boys helped me cook while Emily worked on tutoring assignments at the table. Tyler chopped vegetables, Jake stirred sauce, both chattering about school and friends instead of adult problems. This is nice, Emily said, looking up from her papers. Peaceful, I agreed. Crazy how making good choices leads to good outcomes, Jake deadpanned. Maybe you should write a book, Tyler teased. How not to ruin your life. A guide by someone who totally did. Emily laughed, really laughed. Progress. Slow, messy, but real. 4 months later, Emily's probation officer recommended relaxing some requirements. She'd paid restitution on time, finished community service early, and held 2 steady jobs. Apparently, the threat of prison is great motivation. I'm proud of you, I told her after the hearing. It feels weird being proud of basic adult stuff. Basic adult stuff is harder than people think when you're rebuilding from scratch. We stopped at the same cafe where she'd first apologized months ago. The waitress knew our order by heart now. Amazing how fast you build new routines when your old ones involved felony theft. I have news, Emily said, stirring sugar into her coffee. The accounting firm offered me a full-time job with benefits. That's wonderful. They know about my record. I told them everything and they hired me anyway. I squeezed her hand. Your father would be so proud. You think so? I know so. He believed in second chances. Emily smiled shyly. There's more. Jake got into State University with a partial scholarship. My heart swelled. Jake had worked so hard after the divorce, transforming himself into a solid college candidate. He'll still need help with expenses, Emily added. Between the scholarship, his savings, and the trust fund, I said. Actually, that's why I wanted to talk. I've repaid about 60% of what I stole, but I want to restore the boys' trust funds completely before Jake starts college. That would wipe out your savings. I know, but that money was never mine. The boys deserve their grandfather's gift intact. How will you manage living expenses? She took a breath. I'm selling my mother's jewelry. This stunned me. Emily had treasured her mother's jewelry since she was 16, always saying she'd pass it to her future daughters-in-law. Are you sure? Mom would want her grandsons to have every opportunity. The jewelry is just stuff. Their future matters more. I'll keep her wedding ring and 1 necklace. That afternoon we visited a reputable appraiser. The collection was worth nearly $40,000, enough to fully restore the trust funds. Emily signed the papers without hesitation. Your mother would be proud, I said as we walked to the car. You think so? I know so. She raised a daughter who finally learned to put family first. That evening we told the boys. Wait, Tyler said, processing. You're selling Grandma's jewelry to pay back money you stole from us? Emily winced but nodded. Yes, that's... Jake paused, staring at his acceptance letter with tears in his eyes. That's actually pretty cool, Mom. I can't believe this is real. Last year I thought I'd be lucky to graduate. Last year was a different life, Emily said softly. This year we make better choices. Speaking of better choices, I interrupted, smiling. I have an announcement. I'm creating a scholarship at the high school, the Robert Anderson Memorial Scholarship, for students who've overcome family challenges. Like what? Tyler asked. Like having parents who made mistakes but worked to fix them. Like watching a family fall apart and rebuild. Like proving people can change if they're willing to work for it. Emily burst into tears, happy ones this time. Dad would love that, Jake whispered. He would, I said. And I think he'd love seeing how hard you've all worked to become the family he always hoped for. A week later we gathered at Linda's house for a celebration dinner. Jake's college acceptance and Emily's progress. The entire Anderson family raised their glasses. A year ago I wasn't sure we'd make it, David admitted. Tonight I'm proud of everyone at this table. To second chances, Linda said. To honest work and hard choices, Tom added. To family, Emily finished, and we all echoed. Later David pulled me aside. Margaret, I owe you an apology. When Emily was stealing and lying I was ready to write her off. You insisted she could change. She did the work, but you gave her consequences with love instead of just punishment. That made the difference. Your father taught me people deserve the chance to become their best selves, I replied. Well, it worked. Look at her now. 2 jobs, living within her means, putting her kids first. She's the daughter Dad always believed she could be. That night as Emily and I packed leftovers she asked, Margaret, what if I hadn't changed? What if I'd kept lying and stealing? You would have faced prison, lost custody, and maybe never rebuilt this family, I said gently. And you'd have been okay with that? It would have broken my heart, but yes. Sometimes love means letting people face the full consequences of their choices. I'm glad I chose differently. Me too, kiddo. 1 year after the will reading, we stood at Robert's grave, our new monthly tradition, updating him on family news. Hey Dad, Emily said, kneeling. Jake starts college next month. Business major just like you wanted. And Tyler made honor roll again. Margaret's been helping him with calculus. Tyler snorted. She's terrible at basic math too, Mom. Hush, I'm having a moment with your grandfather, Emily said, rolling her eyes. I placed flowers by the headstone. Hello, sweetheart. You'd be amazed by your daughter. She's exactly the woman you always believed she could be. Emily's voice softened. Are you happy with how things turned out? I'm happy with the work you've done. Your happiness is your responsibility now. That's a very therapist thing to say. I've been reading self-help books, I teased. Sue me. The boys wandered off, sensing we needed a private moment. Emily hesitated before asking, do you ever regret not remarrying? You're only 55, you could still have a different life. I loved your father deeply, but I'm not opposed to love again. Still, right now I'm exactly where I want to be, watching you rebuild, helping the boys plan for their future, being part of this family. This feels like the life I was meant to have. Especially because it took 25 years to get here. Easy victories don't teach you anything. Emily was quiet, then admitted, I used to think Dad married beneath himself when he chose you. Now I think he married someone who knew real worth comes from character, not money. We sat on a bench near the grave, watching the boys trace weathered inscriptions on old headstones. Do you feel like you've kept the promise you made to your father, to take care of us? I asked. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm trying. Every day I try to deserve the second chance you gave me. You don't earn a second chance, it's freely given. What you're earning now is your own self-respect. Same thing, isn't it? Not at all. Self-respect is harder to win and worth more when you finally have it. That evening, as we cooked dinner in Emily's apartment, she chopped vegetables with the knife skills I'd taught her months ago. The scholarship fund is doing well, she said. 40,000 raised so far, I confirmed. Enough for 4 students next year. I want to join the selection committee. Are you sure? You'd have to share your story with applicants. That's why I should do it. Who better to recognize real change than someone who's lived it? What would you tell them? I asked. That mistakes don't define you, but how you respond does. That rebuilding trust takes time and the work is hard but worth it. And if they ask about your record? I'll tell them the truth. I stole from my kids, lied, nearly destroyed my family. Then I'll tell them how I've spent the past year making amends and learning to live with integrity. You think that'll inspire them? I think it'll show them redemption's possible if you're willing to do the work. The boys emerged to help set the table. You'd be great at picking scholarship winners, Tyler said. You think so? Emily asked. Definitely. Plus, you can tell them about all your spectacular failures. He grinned. Thanks, kiddo, Emily laughed. Mom, Jake said thoughtfully. Remember when you cried all the time and we didn't know why? I'm glad you don't do that anymore. This is better, having a mom who's proud of herself instead of ashamed. The simplicity of his words stunned me. Teenagers often see truths adults avoid. That night, as Emily reviewed applications for the scholarship committee, I realized something important. She wasn't chasing redemption anymore. She was building a life she could be proud of. The transformation was complete. Now came the real challenge, keeping it. 2 years after the will reading, I received an unexpected phone call from Jason. Jason had been living out of state since the divorce, supposedly working on his gambling addiction and rebuilding his life. More likely he'd simply run out of people to borrow money from. Margaret, I need to talk to you about seeing the boys, he said when he called. You need to talk to Emily. I'm not their guardian. She won't take my calls. Maybe there's a reason for that. There was a long pause. I know I messed up. I'm trying to make things right. What do you want from me? Convince her to let me see my sons. I've been clean for 8 months, have a steady job, and I'm in therapy. And you think that entitles you to see children you terrorized? The last time you saw them, you were drunk and violating a restraining order. I've changed. So has Emily. She's been proving it for 2 years. You've been gone. I had to fix my life first. Fair enough. But fixing your life doesn't erase the damage. You have to rebuild trust, and that takes time. He was quiet. Will you at least ask if she's willing to talk to me? I'll mention you called. What she does with that is up to her. That evening, I brought it up while Emily and I went over her monthly budget, something we still did out of habit even though she no longer needed my oversight. He wants to see the boys, I said. Emily's expression tightened. What do you think? It's not my decision. But I think you should ask Tyler and Jake what they want. If they agree, set strict boundaries. Supervised visits, public places. If not, respect their choice. Emily stared at her spreadsheet for a long time. 2 years ago, I'd have said yes out of guilt or no out of anger. Well, I want to do what's best for my kids. That evening, she sat down with the boys. I stayed in the kitchen, giving them privacy. Dad wants to see us, she said. He says he's been working on his problems. Has he paid back any of the money? Jake asked bluntly. No. Has he apologized for scaring us? Tyler added. Not directly. There was a pause. I don't want to see him, Tyler said firmly. Maybe someday, but not now. Same, Jake agreed. 8 months of therapy doesn't erase years of misery. He's still your father, Emily reminded them. That doesn't give him the right to hurt us and then demand forgiveness, Jake said. I couldn't have been prouder. They'd learned not to set themselves on fire to keep others warm. Emily called Jason that night. They're not ready and I won't force them. His raised voice carried through the phone. You lost the right to make demands when you chose gambling over family, Emily said calmly. If you want a relationship with your sons, you need to earn it. Like I earned their forgiveness, with consistent actions over time. She hung up looking exhausted. Do you think I'm being too hard on him? She asked. I think you're protecting your children. That's what good mothers do. 3 months later, Jason called again. He'd completed a year of treatment and wanted to send letters. Letters might be okay, Emily said. Boundaries. No guilt, no money requests, no empty promises. Just honesty. The boys agreed. The first letter arrived a week later. Jason acknowledged his past, accepted responsibility, and shared his recovery progress. This is actually not terrible, Jake admitted. He didn't blame Mom for anything, Tyler noted. Will you write back? Emily asked. Maybe. Let me think. That night, Tyler wrote a short response thanking Jason for being honest. Jake didn't reply, but he didn't throw the letter away either. Progress, Emily said. Slow progress is still progress, I agreed. By year's end, the boys exchanged occasional letters and agreed to a supervised phone call on Christmas Day. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was a start. I'm proud of how you handled this, I told Emily while we wrapped presents. I almost screwed it up so many times. I wanted to either punish Jason or guilt the boys into forgiving him. But you didn't, because you learned that parenting means supporting your kids' emotional needs, not managing your own guilt through them. Emily grinned. Therapy. Turns out there are books on how to be functional. Who you? I laughed. Your father would be proud of the mother you've become. I hope so. I'm finally proud of myself. That's a start. Christmas morning brought another milestone. I'm changing my major, Jake announced. From business to social work. I want to help families like ours, ones that are struggling but still have hope. That's a beautiful goal, I said. I learned from you and Mom that the best help often comes from people who've lived it, Jake continued. And sometimes, Tyler added, the best way to heal your life is to help others heal theirs. Out of the mouths of babes. Sometimes the next generation really does turn out better than the one before. 5 years after Robert's death, I stood in Emily's backyard. She'd bought a modest 3-bedroom after being promoted to senior accountant. The Anderson family was gathered for the annual Robert Anderson Memorial Scholarship Barbecue. What started as a simple dinner had become a community tradition. Grandma Margaret, a small voice called. Emma, David's 4-year-old granddaughter, ran up clutching a dandelion. For you, she announced proudly. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you. She beamed and ran off to pick more flowers, leaving me holding weeds and a heart full of joy. Children have such a talent for finding beauty in unlikely places, I said, arranging Emma's dandelions in a plastic cup. She adores you, Linda smiled, sitting beside me. The feeling's mutual. It's amazing how far this family's come, she said, glancing toward the yard. Emily laughing by the grill, Tyler and Jake tossing bean bags, David pushing Emma on the new swing. 5 years ago, I wasn't sure we'd even speak again. Your brother would be proud, I said. Especially of you. Me. You held us together when we were falling apart. You gave Emily consequences when she needed them and support when she was ready to change. Emily approached with a young woman. Margaret, meet Jessica Torres, our first scholarship graduate. Jessica, petite with serious eyes, shook my hand. Mrs. Anderson, I can't thank you enough. It changed my life. Tell me about yourself. I was 17 when my mom was arrested for drugs. Dad was gone and I was raising my 2 brothers. I thought I'd have to quit school to work. What changed? Emily found me crying in the counselor's office. She shared her story, convinced me to finish school and apply for college. The scholarship paid tuition and she helped me find a job. What did you study? Social work, like Jake. I want to help kids in crisis. My brothers are both honor students now. They want to apply for Anderson scholarships. Robert would have loved this. Exactly why I started the fund. What's next? I asked. Graduate school. Emily offered to supervise my practicum. You didn't mention supervising students, I said to Emily. It's new. Turns out my recovery background qualifies me, she said with a grin. That evening, after everyone left, Emily and I sat on her porch watching the sunset. 5 years, she said quietly. 5 years, I echoed. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't changed? Sometimes. But I try not to dwell on what-ifs. I think about it all the time. You could have just had me arrested and walked away. But you did change. And I didn't walk away. That's what matters. I used to think redemption meant earning forgiveness. Now I know it's about becoming someone you can live with. Your father would be proud, I said, squeezing her hand. I hope so. I'm finally proud of myself. We sat in silence, fireflies glowing in the dusk. Do you ever feel like Dad planned all this? Emily asked. I smiled. Robert was a chess player. It wouldn't surprise me if he predicted every move. You think he expected me to steal and get caught? I think he created consequences that mattered. Whether you learned from them was up to you. Wise man, she murmured. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through, but I'm glad it happened. Why? Because now I know who I really am. And I like that person. As stars appeared, I thought about how far we'd come. 5 years ago, I was a widow thrown out of her own home. Tonight, I was surrounded by family who respected me, watching those same stepchildren raise their kids with love. Emily. Yeah. Thank you, for becoming the daughter your father knew you could be, for giving me the family I always hoped for. He hugged me. Thank you for not giving up on me. I love you, Mom. I love you too, kiddo. After 27 years, she finally called me Mom. Robert's plan had worked. The old schemer got exactly what he wanted. A real family, a wife who was loved and respected, and children who learned that character matters more than entitlement. It took courtrooms, embezzlement charges, and 5 years of hard work, but it was worth every minute.